friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 166. Today is Friday, August 22nd. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Thanks so much for joining in. It's a little cloudy. The lighting is weird. I have a light turned on, which may or may not be a good idea. Yes. Flosstube is cross stitch and Variety Show is something else. So I am kind of surprised. I do have a lot of things I've worked on this past week, even though we were gone I had a class, a single thing that I worked on Saturday, and we were gone all day Sunday visiting our son and daughter-in-law to celebrate our son's birthday. And it just has seemed like, and another day, all I did was sort of floss storage maintenance tasks. I didn't do hardly any stitching. So anyway, but I do have things to show you. So let's get started on that. Flosstube, meaning cross stitch. Hannah Green, I've done almost nothing really. 1826. She finished this March 1st, 1826. I intend to finish it March 1st, 2026, 200 years later. Okay, there's the chart, and the thing is not next. All right. I'll just show it to you because it's beautiful. I have done some more. So you can't maybe tell I've done more in the grass, and I filled in that cow, so now you can see the cow is blue because, of course, the cow is blue. Makes me wonder if the cow was gray. And I did this blue pointy flower there. I don't think I've done anything else. I thought I was going to do more, but, I didn't. But this is such a beautiful sampler, isn't it? Here's I began the over one, the fourth line of it, which is part of the assignment for August. Now, this is August 22nd, so I have a week. I might not finish the August assignment in August, having done quite a bit of that, the solid stitching at the bottom section. So let me just reach. Can I reach? Yeah. I will show you this again. I didn't do a lot on it, but I did some. Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. This is my current full coverage piece. I've been working on it for 4.5 years. Yeah, if I were a full coverage aficionado, true fan, I would have finished this long ago because it's only 72,000 stitches, but I worked down here in that corner. You may be able to see that I put in some dark colored grid lines because this is a 4-pound test red fishing line that's sold to cross stitchers for gridding purposes. And that's an excellent gridding substance. But it gets in my way eventually, and I pull it out thinking, I'll be fine. Well, I was down here and discovered I had not been fine. I had made a boo-boo on about 60 stitches of a certain color that's the same color as the fabric, which is probably part of why I didn't count it right. So I had to take it out. And you might say, Emily, it's just marble. Why do you have to take it out? Well, there's some shadow down there that's pretty specific in, you can't really see because the logo, but I was afraid it wouldn't look right if I fudged it. There are many, many other mistakes in here where the wrong thread was used, but it wasn't in a place that I felt might distract, so a lot of the mistakes I didn't fix. But down in there, I was just worried that it would not look right. I did about 500 stitches. I passed the 93% mark. I'm a couple hundred stitches below 5,000 remaining. I calculated that I could probably finish this before going to England if I made it a priority to do so. But I have other priorities I've decided before then. And so I was also planning in the month of August to work on Margaret Hutton, which was the sampler that we got from Hands Across the Sea last year at the Queen City Sampler Guild event with Nicola Parkman. But instead, I pulled out Martha Miller. I've seen some people's progress posted in the Queen City Sampler Guild group, Facebook group. And this is such an interesting, kind of quirky little sampler that it made me say, oh yeah, I want to work on that some more. So I did. I pulled the border down a little bit and I put in, I think I put the flower parts on that and put in this little motif. And I put Moses' name and I started to stitch Moses, which is one of the quirky things about it. It has Moses on this side and Aaron on the other side. And Aaron's name is spelled wrong with only one A, but Moses is wearing A and so is Aaron. It's like a little 18th century coat jacket. This was, does it have a date? May 26th, 1858, so probably very typical clothing. Or maybe he's possibly a sailor. It might be a sailor, but this shape of is that a hat? I don't know what Moses and Aaron are in this sampler, but it's fun nonetheless. So this is 16 count hog bristle by Fox and Rabbit. Somebody was asking within the past few videos, do I ever stitch on Aida? And so, yes, I do. Here's a sampler I'm stitching on Aida. I was really attracted to this sampler. So first of all, it's an exclusive to the Queen City Sampler Guild for another few months. I think that Running with Needles and Scissors, Sylvia is planning to release it sometime later this year, maybe at Marketplace or whatever is happening now or about to happen. I can't keep track of all of that stuff. So it might not be exclusive. I mean, maybe anyone can get it soon, but she released it to us exclusively last year. And there was a 9-month stitch along, basically dividing it into 9 pieces, which I did it as a start along because I had a lot of other things. I do always have a lot of other things going. But anyway, it's fun. It has pretty colors, purple and pink and some odd little things like Moses and Aaron. And then also, instead of picking up Margaret Hutton, I picked up the Royal Thistle Sampler and Accessories. I'm working on this little sampler. And I bought this as an exclusive through the Hobby House it was from Hobby House Needleworks, but it was Homespun Needlework Facebook group. And I had down to this purple rice stitch line. So I've done this viney border, this layer of alphabets, and I've started on the Bargello. Now, I don't know what you can see in the camera, if you can see how poor the coverage is on the darker colors of that Bargello. And so I'm doing this on using 103 silks on 46 count. Dolly Madison is the fabric, I'm pretty sure. And it's just beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful, tiny little sampler. There's a bunch of straight stitches on this thistle row, which I haven't done because I was afraid that I would do them and they might get messed up in my hoop. So I thought I'd do them last. But 103 has no fuzz to it. It doesn't have any, it is itself, and it doesn't have any sort of bleed over into other, visual bleed over, not the dye bleeding. So it's really hard to make it cover anything. It's more for lines and for crisp looking stitches, which is great. I don't have these colors in a which would be a great alternative for this Bargello section. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish it, and then I'm gonna go on and finish the sampler probably. But I might, over in the margin, try what happens if I do 2 threads, not 2 at once, but stitching over, and see how that looks. And probably I'm going to like that look, and I'm gonna go back over the Spargello and stitch it again with a 2nd thread of each color, because I think that will be more what I want. But this is gonna be nice. You see how small it is, 46 count. This chart also has this needle book with thistles on it and a house, scissor holder, and something else. So anyway, by the way, I emailed the designer, Robin Laukoff, and got some extra information. So if you have that chart and you think that there's something missing from it, she will respond to you. And then the last thing I'm going to show you, I had shown you some of the stitching that was finished, and this is what the Saturday stitching or time was spent doing, which was I attended the class taught by Robin Shappell, Samplerbird Stitchery Designs is her company. I think she's on Etsy, I think is where she. But she taught us a class, Queen City Sampler Guild, in making this thing. And so these are the little pins I showed you that I had stitched them. You cut them out, you mount them on straight pins, and you back it with a little white wool felt. And then this is there's a pin. This is a pin. It's a crown to go on this pin cushion, this tomato. You see how the lace, this is a manufactured lace, which is perfect for this. And then the little rose-colored pins that match the floss. So that was very fun. This was the morning class. I did not know there was metallic pearl cotton made by DMC. And this is cotton fabric, but you can see it's a little shiny. It has a coating on it, sort of a gold coating. And I want to make another tomato using the measurements and the technique out of just regular cotton quilting fabric, because I think it might be easier to manipulate. This was a little stiff. And it didn't matter so much in this size. That is, this is okay that it's stiff and that it has little, pleats and things in it, because first of all, a tomato does. Oh, by the way, you see that nice button on the bottom. A tomato has pleats. I mean, it's not a globe. But I think that another type of fabric would be easier. And then this is scissor fob, and my tomato is not good, but it's pretty cute. And it has the crown on it also. And we made this string of beads, the beads were in the kit. And this is a little two-sided, she calls it a stitched bead, which I did 2 different flowers for it. Isn't that just the cutest? It was the whole day was very fun, and she's a very good teacher. If you have a chance to take a class from her, she's a very good teacher. Her pacing is very good. Her instructions, her verbal instructions and her written instructions are very clear. So it was an excellent thing. So that is fun. And I know something now about how to make a scissor fob. This has some, I won't tell you the secret of what's in there, but it's not wire, let's put it that way. So it has some give. So that was really fun. And the whole day of Saturday was spent doing this. And I got inspired to do the needle book, and I mentioned it to you before, and I found the pictures so you can see what it looks like. You can see the QCSG across the top, Queen City Sampler Guild, the flowers, these same little specialty stitch flowers, and then it says celebrating 30 years of needlework and friendship, 1995 to 2025. And so she showed it in two different ways, one that had a nun-stitch detail and the other that had that didn't. It was just the stitching. And so I have the nun-stitch detail going, and I just started with the word needlework. And I started there because this is all over one, and it was the closest place for me to count from the edge, from the nun-stitch edge into the stitching part. So that's what I did. And I'm sorry that picture's so small. I may not work on this week, although I might. But I do intend to finish this. I mean, I intend to finish it and to make it into the needle book as instructed in the kit. So that'll happen. And if you ever get a kit from Robin, everything that you need is in there, and the few things you don't need are very clearly said. These are the things you need. It was an impressive and fun day of a class. Now, Queen City Sampler Guild, I've mentioned them before. I'm about to put in I've collected the items that I need for the September-October newsletter, which will outline a few other classes and lectures coming up between now and the end of the year. It is a very rich program. It has a lot of Zoom opportunities, including monthly Zoom get-togethers twice a month, once a month on Wednesdays and once a month on Thursdays for stitching together. And I've joined in with several of those. It's very nice. It's very, a good way to meet a few people and chat, show what you're working on, talk about the guild, express appreciation for the classes and whatever. It's a very good guild, and you don't have to live in Cincinnati. And I would have thought, I'm just, woe is me. There's no stitching contacts I can make locally here because there's nothing going on around here. There's no shop. But you can make contacts without there having to be a shop, and that is one of the ways. So what else has been going on? So I mentioned that I did a lot of maintenance of my floss storage. So what had happened, did I come across, somewhere, hold on, here we go. I have a friend at church, an acquaintance friend at church, who about a year ago gave me her cross-stitch stuff. And when she first said to me, Emily, I hear you do cross-stitch. I have to give it up because I can't see well enough. And after I encouraged her to try magnification, she just said no, she couldn't see well enough. And so I hear that you do cross-stitch, may I give you my stuff? And I said, well, yes, I do cross-stitch. I do a lot of sampler reproductions and Blackbird, and I sort of named a few things so that she would know whether I was really the right destination. Because what I didn't want was a whole bunch of cross-stitch that was, a bunch of cute teddy bears and elephants and that kind of thing. Because I do some of that, definitely have, but it's not the mainstay. It's not my main interest in stitching. And I didn't want her to be disappointed that I wouldn't be excited. She said, oh yes, that's right, reproduction samplers. And so she gave me a big plastic tub plus another box or bag of things. And I sorted through it and pulled out a few things that were more cutesy and less in my current taste in stitching, that I was pretty sure I wouldn't stitch, and I gave them to someone that I thought would stitch them. But the rest of it I just sort of packed away because at the time she gave it to me, I had too much going on to think about it. I have too much going on today to think about it too. But what I had found was that she had bobbinated her DMC from the kits on these little bobbins. I think these are made by DMC maybe, or someone like that. And they are excellent little bobbins if you have just a little bit of thread that you need to keep for some reason. But this is not my system. From the beginning of my cross-stitching back in 1985 or so, I used an index card folded in half with a notch cut out of it. With notches cut out of it. Sorry, I turned my back to you. This is a 3x5 card. I fold it in half. I cut a notch there, I cut a notch there, and then I cut a slit on either side. And this is how I store my floss. These go side by side in shoe boxes, numerical order. And that's how I always have stored my DMC. Well, I did not take hers off of her little bobbins. They were in another little case, numerical order. Most of them were, and the ones that didn't fit in there were in a bag, I think is how she originally gave them to me. And so I would pull out one that I needed. You know, I'd borrow from what she had given me to fill out something that I was working on. But this isn't my way, and so it was hard for me, even in the course of putting things in a project bag, to see that I had this color. Like, this is 3045. I don't think I accidentally bought another one of these, but because it isn't the same shape and size, it was hard for me to process it in my mind in terms of whether I had it or not. And it's also thicker because it's wound on a smaller area, and so it just doesn't work. So I spent the other day, I was finishing up my book club book, and I spent the other day putting all of the threads from these bobbins onto these bobbins. And I found them all in my shoe boxes. My shoe boxes are kind of full now because I put in probably 70 of these. And that's what I did most of that day. I also did a little tatting, and I did some, I'm making thread cards for Leslie's stitching retreat, which today is the day the deadline to sign up for that in Leroy, New York. I think I put the link last week's video. Now, if you are a little late in signing up, she might be lenient. But she is making the arrangements. She is finalizing things in order to have everything set up. She wants to have that all ready before she goes to England with me, before we go to England in October. So you can't wait very long past the deadline to sign up. But I believe there is still some space, so I think it would be an excellent it's a one-day retreat. There will be some door prizes and stitching time and nice Christmas ornaments, and you'll get to see the Joy Project. I think I may be promising things that I shouldn't be saying. I'm pretty sure you will, though. They're at St. Mark's Church in Leroy, and St. Mark's Church itself is a beautiful church. Leroy is a beautiful little town. So if you're at all in that area, Western New York, it's between Rochester and Buffalo, it's an exit off of 90, the thruway, the New York State Thruway. That was called Thruway. You know, that's where I lived. It's funny that I can't remember. Anyway, I think that would be worth it. But I did spend some time doing thread cards, and I'm done with everything I have, Leslie. What else? So on Saturday, we went to see our son and daughter-in-law to celebrate our son's birthday. And of course, the highlight, besides seeing them, was seeing their chickens, which have really grown up. And I tried to get some good pictures of their chickens. They all have names. Here's a picture. I'm going to put some pictures up. One of them is of me holding one that's sort of speckledy. And that chicken's name is Banana because she was bright yellow when she was a chick. Well, she isn't bright yellow now. And also some of them, I think their rooster and a couple of their hens are called chocolate Orpingtons. That's their variety. And I think, that sounds like a menu item that you might say, hey, I'll have the chocolate Orpington, but hold the whipped cream. But it's a kind of chicken that lays, I think it lays a really dark brown, sort of a rich mahogany brown egg. So it was very fun, and we were able to pick up the chickens and fed the chickens and gave them some table scraps, and Scott prepared a very good pasta lunch for us. So Natasha is a vegetarian and Scott is not a vegetarian, and so the way this works is for things like pasta is he will cook the pasta, of course, and he'll cook the sauce or heat it up, and it's a vegetarian sauce. And then he cooks meat on the side, and in this case he also cooks vegetables, zucchini and onions and carrots, peppers maybe, and he just cooks them in little pieces, bite-sized pieces, and then you assemble your own. So Natasha puts sauce, vegetables, and pasta together with some cheese, and the rest of us can put the meat on there too. And it's delicious. It's a very satisfying way to manage having vegetarian and non-vegetarian people in the same eating space. And he does a wonderful job cooking the different elements. The vegetables are perfectly cooked, just the right amount of seasoning in them. It's all very good. It's quite amazing. In my mind, I occasionally will think of him, and I think of him at the age of about 14, which he is 31. He's an adult. When I was 31, I was an adult. I had already led a search committee at our church. I might have been a deacon. In other words, I had done adult things. I think we owned a house. Well, I mean, they own a house. But the idea of me thinking of him as if he were a child is so crazy, because he's not. He's a man. So anyway, it was fun to be there. Beautiful day up there, beautiful weather. It was a little warm. It was a little warm. And we brought home, in fact, we need to get them out of the car, 2 sections about 6 or 8 inches thick and maybe 14 inches around of black walnut, because I know a couple of woodworkers that I want to give them to, or offer them to anyway. One of them in particular I think is good and nice enough that it could possibly be turned into a bowl. It doesn't seem to have any internal cracks to it. But they're fairly fresh. The tree fell a year ago in Hurricane Helene, and they've just been sawed into these discs within the past 2 months, I would say. In other news, our woodpile that Scott and I built when he was here in July fell over. So Byron and I are going to set it up again one of these days. Today would be probably a good day. It's not overly hot, but I have other things going on today. So that is, I'm sorry the variety shows some pictures of chickens. That's just how it is this week. I hope that you are enjoying your stitching. It's interesting, a few of the floss tubes that I watch, the person will say, tell me what you've been working on while you've been watching this video, because clearly we do not sit in front of our screens and just watch. Nobody has that kind of time. And there's no reason to, because most of the time I'm not showing you anything you need to look at. You might be interested in listening to me. And if I'm showing you something, I say, and look at this, and then you'll look. So what have you been stitching on? I'm curious to know what kinds of things you're working on. My plans for the coming week are, because I sort of gotten into it, I'm going to do a little more on this Old Willow Stitchery piece and on the Martha Miller sampler. I'll probably finish Moses and his scroll. He's holding a scroll and something else in his hand. So I'll probably work on those. And of course, Hannah Green and Under the Roof. And I have to get back to Jane Greenoff. And I have to do the Ray Niles project. I think it's 7.5 weeks until we go. It's a little bit astonishingly soon. I still have table gifts to prepare. At least I do know what they're going to be. So that's good. And I have a few other things that I want to do before we go. Oh, and the Jane Boyer sampler chart I want to do. I have the newsletter for the Queen City Sampler Guild to do. I'm attending the elder meeting next week to introduce myself as treasurer and give a few comments about philosophy of money that they're going to encounter as long as I'm treasurer, which they should have asked me all these things before they appointed me, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. And I have straightening out to do and cleaning up to do and taking inventory of some things. I want to do some cooking. I don't know if, I don't think it's possible for all of these things that I have in mind to happen this week. Now next Friday will be the 29th, and I think there's nothing to keep me from doing a video that day, so I think you'll see me. Yeah, I think that for the next few weeks, things should be pretty normal in terms of Friday video availability. So I guess you have that to anticipate, to plan for, to look forward to. I hate to put it too positively. I mean, that's crazy. Emily, you should really cut that whole thing out. But you know, I'm not going to. I do minimal editing, as you've noticed. All right, Emily, enough blathering along. Enough of that. Thank you so much for watching, and many blessings to you, friends.